Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final MPMA Plastech Month 2025 webinar entitled Regulations and Compliance Requirements. My name is Crystal and I will be your MC this morning. The Plastech Month 2025, organized by MPMA, is a month-long virtual conference that continues the momentum started in 2021. Under the theme Shaping Tomorrow's Plastics from Advanced Materials to Smart Processes, the 2025 edition brings together global and local industry experts via a curated series of 7 webinars on topics such as smart manufacturing, advanced materials, recycling, circular economy, automation, and regulatory compliance. It aims to drive sustainability and innovation across the plastics value chain, responding to both market challenges and environmental imperatives. Before we begin the webinar, I would like to share a few quick housekeeping rules. First, we have muted microphones and turned off cameras so that the speakers can present without interruptions. If you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. Our speakers will respond to questions that are clearly written and related to the presentation. The Q&A box is not for promoting products or services, and kindly do not comment on other participants' questions. The box is just for presentation-related queries. And finally, the organizers may remove any participant who does not follow these guidelines. Thank you for your kind cooperation. The Plastech Month 2025 is proudly presented to you by MPMA with the generous support of our sponsors from the plastics industry in Malaysia. A big thank you to all of them as follows: our gold sponsor, Petronas Chemicals Group Berhad; our silver sponsors, Alliance Bank Malaysia Berhad, Arberg Sendirian Berhad, Control Union Malaysia Sendirian Berhad, Clariant Singapore Private Limited, Data Color Asia Pacific Hong Kong Limited, Angle, ExxonMobil Chemical Malaysia Sendirian Berhad, Fangxing Machinery Company Limited, Haitian Huayuan Singapore Private Limited, Kohley Printing and Converting Machines Private Limited, Mahki, Monitor ERP System Southeast Asia, Tederick Machinery Company Limited. And our other sponsors include Janoschka Malaysia Sendirian Berhad, Kampf Jagenberg Group, Mehro, and Reifenhäuser Asia Pacific Company Limited. Thank you to all of our sponsors for making the MPMA Plastech Month 2025 possible. Before we begin, I would like to request our moderator and fellow speakers to turn on their videos for a group photograph. May I invite Mr. Kevin, Mr. Damien to also switch on your video, please? Okay, are we ready? A quick countdown, 3, 2, 1. Smile, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you very much. So with that, let me introduce our moderator for today's session, Mr. Alvin Ang. Mr. Alvin Ang holds a Bachelor of Business Accounting degree from Monash University, Australia. He joined the Tongguan Group in 1993 as an accounts executive and rose through the ranks to become the general manager prior to his appointment to the board. He was instrumental in planning the listing of Tongguan Industries Berhad on the KL Stock Exchange in 1997. He has contributed immensely to the growth of Tongguan Industries to be one of the largest plastic manufacturers in the region. He is presently the Vice President of MPMA and the Chairman of MPMA Northern Branch. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Mr. Alvin Ang. Mr. Alvin, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. Good morning, everyone. I've got the privilege to see 57 participants now and going up every minute. Today's first speaker is Mr. Supun Nigamuni. We have an engaging program lineup featuring expert speakers who will share insights on latest global, regional, and local regulations and compliance development. Lineup today, we've got a fun-packed program featuring 3 speakers. Mr. Nigamuni will be talking on understanding global regulation, trends, and how certification enables compliance and voluntary commitments. Then the followed by financing the green transition through ESG linked incentives and support by Mr. Kevin Sean Fernandez of Alliance Bank. And then the final speaker will be Mr. Damien Santosh Sampson on sustainable trade, navigating the future with ESG from Matrade. And we should end before noon today. And good time for lunch. Without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Nigamuni. He's the managing director of Control Union Malaysia and Papua New Guinea. Control Union is a global service provider for testing, inspection, and certification. They call it the TIC, active in more than 80 countries. Mr. Nigamuni is a global leader in sustainable assurance across agriculture, renewable energy, textiles, recycling, forestry, aquaculture, and more. He also chairs Control Union's global expert team overseeing certification and key sectors including forestry, palm oil, sugar, soybean, rubber, and tourism and services on the Asia Pacific Regional Management Team for the Royal Peterson and Control Union Group. Today, Mr. Nigamuni will be talking on understanding global regulation trends and how certification enables compliance and voluntary commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Supun Nigamuni. Mr. Nigamuni, we have your attention. You may start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvin. Good morning to you all. Let me just sharing my screen. Hope you all can see the slides. Good morning again, and thank you very much for MPMA for inviting us for this very important last webinar of the Plastech month of 2025. And being the world's largest certifier in the space of plastic and recycling, we are deeply concerned, and we value the importance of us playing a role in basically advocating the industries to ensure the industry is actually future-proof. So we are very happy to be here. So over the next 25, 30 minutes, I'll basically give a bit of a deep dive into the global regulatory shifts and also focusing on the shifts that we are seeing in Malaysia and how certification in the plastic and packaging industry is aiding this transition, which is actually we are seeing very visibly. So plastic and packaging are no longer operational side topics, so they have become policy issues, financial issues, and increasingly compliance issues. And we see that the global regulations are shifting from very fast and very faster than corporate strategies. And ESG has moved from voluntary to mandatory. And manufacturers, especially export-driven manufacturers like you all are here in Malaysia, are directly in the path of this transition. So the world today asks tough questions. Where were the products are coming from, and how are the products being made, and what happens to it after use, and most importantly, whether you can prove it. So my goal today is not to give theory, but to be more practical, translating these global regulation shifts into clear pathways for Malaysian industries to be future-proofed and succeed. So why this matters now? In the past, ESG lived in the corporate responsibility department. If you remember, in most of your companies, for many 10 years back, and for most 5 years back, because it was actually just another tasks in the corporate responsibility department. But if you see today, it's actually in the legal department, it's in the finance department, it's in the supply chain department, and we are seeing increasingly in the boardroom. And plastic packaging sits in the center of it because it touches waste, emissions, resource use, food safety. Pallet loss is no longer housekeeping. It can be seen as a microplastic risk. Landfill heavy operation is not just longer just about disposal. It's seen as a systemic waste risk profile. So we are moving from intention into evidence. So it's not no longer about saying that we recycle, we are sustainable. The question is, can we prove it with traceability, data, and independent verification and certification? So this is the new reality for suppliers. One of the biggest shifts is that your factory is no longer just a factory. What happens here travels into the European brand sustainable report, investors' due diligence, and a lender's climate risk assessment. And this is in these days, this is the only thing that the banks are asking for, apart from whether you can actually pay the loans. I believe my friend Kevin would basically share a bit longer how financial institutions and how the lending practices are being changed with sustainability, ESG in focus. So at the present, what we are increasingly seeing is a pallet loss in Klang can be flagged as a microplastic concern in Brussels. A weak waste system here can sit inside somebody else's Scope 3 emission disclosure. And Malaysian manufacturers are not just suppliers. We are part of a compliance footprint of multinational brands. So what we'll do today is actually in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll walk through 6 themes. We look into global shifts, but very important, look into the Malaysian shifts as well. We are seeing Europe as a bloc coming up with regulations, but weathering down those regulations with postponements and rollbacks. But Malaysia and ASEAN as a region is actually holding very firm, and we are seeing the emerging landscape in Malaysia. So we just touch on some of those aspects. And we'll put a bit more focus on packaging and packaging waste regulation expectations, which is actually going to be the cornerstone for the compliance in this industry, coming from especially with the European-driven plastic and packaging, and how certification turns requirements into proof, and how food contact recycled plastic works, and finally how control union and zero waste to landfill movement basically supports the industry. So giving a global snapshot, but more focusing on EU because EU as a bloc has actually been the trendsetter for all these years. So globally, we are seeing acceleration with some delays, but consistent direction. It's very unfortunate that the Green Claims Directive, which we were very optimistic, was withdrawn. But however, the misleading claims will be still pursued under existing law. CSRD is in force, requiring granular supply chain ESG data. CSDDD makes companies responsible for environmental and labor practices in their global supply chains, even though it's actually being weathered down a bit. EUDR, we hear the yesterday's parliament vote. It'll most probably be again delayed, but not reversed for the time being. We hope that it will not be reversed. And will impact plastic linked to rubber, timber, and pulp, because there's considerable amount of composites coming in with the use of this material. We see the carbon regime is also being tightening in the compliance market setup. Is not just the tax, it's the ETS as well. We are seeing the enforcement of the EU plastic taxes since 2021. So all countries who are not recycling have to multiply at a rate of 0.8 euros per kg in a contribution from that country to the European Union's budget. So these are setting the tone for the entire world to follow, even though ETS does not consider the plastic at the moment, but increasingly looking into whatever from the basis of petrochemicals. So, and most importantly, PPWR, the packaging and packaging waste regulation, entered into force and becomes enforceable from August 2026. So the message is very clear. Delays are not reversals unless in the case of hopefully UDR will not happen, but expectations keep on rising. So what this means for exporters like you, if a buyer is regulated, if your buyer is regulated, you are indirectly regulated. You companies need reliable scope 3 and due diligence data. It's not just European companies, any multinational at this particular juncture is asking for this data. And they need proof, not claims. This means the suppliers will increasingly be evaluated against data transparency, certification, and traceability. And non-compliance does not always mean penalties. Sometimes it means that silent exclusion from high-value markets. So being compliant is no longer an option. If you think compliance is difficult, my message always to the industry is actually try non-compliance. Or if the regulations are not directly applying to you, then you are silently being excluded from those supply chains and your barrier to entry will actually be enormous. Let's be deep dive into PPWR, which is the big shift. So packaging and packaging waste regulation doesn't ask manufacturers to be sustainable. It compels them. So packaging must be designed for recycling, and recycle content targets become legal obligations. Reuse and minimization are required in specific formats. All critically, verification replaces self-declaration. So recyclability and recycled content becomes enforced performance metrics. So PPWR is actually a traceability regime. It's not just a packaging law. It is, if you look into it, it's a traceability law. It assumes companies can prove that they claim with auditable chain of custody data calculated using standardized methods like EN 15343 under PPWR. So spreadsheets and self-declarations won't survive, but certification will, because there's a mandatory push towards being independently verified and certified. And we are seeing the regime evolving in Malaysia as well. There's a lot happening. I have highlighted too NSRF and also EECA, but not just this. It's going beyond the new Climate Change Act. We expect the new Climate Change Act and a carbon tax is actually being rolled out. Even though you are not subject in the first phase, there's an increasing possibility that you will actually be in the latter phase. MOF is also coming up with a carbon tax act as well. So in Malaysia's NSRF, we applaud the phased approach. It brings that mandatory sustainable reporting into listed companies from this financial year, expanding through to 2027 for the top brass of companies. So 3 categories: listed companies, big top brass, more than 2 billion cap, and then to other main market issuers, and then to non-listed companies with a cap of more than 2 billion, plus to the ACE market. So this phased approach for each of the segments of 3 years gives that breathing space for companies to do better. And because you have to capture all your scope 3 by that within that 3-year period, it makes your life pretty difficult. So don't wait until the year that you are mandated to go for, because this whole process will actually take a lot of time because it's not just within your walls, it's basically up and downstream, both. So that and there's a long-term direction towards externally assured data. Banks are integrating climate risks into lending, and the plastic sustainable roadmap signals the intent to reduce leakage and boost circularity. It's very important when we look into the sustainability agenda. There was a time that we could not compare apples to apples. We could not compare companies in the same industry. So that's where from IFRS S1 there's a push towards using of ISSB standards. So the SASB standard for containers and packaging standard is the most relevant disclosure framework for plastic and packaging sector. So it applies directly to manufacturers of rigid, flexible plastic packaging, provides structured way to report sustainable performance in a manner that investors, buyers, and regulators can understand and compare. So it focuses on aspects like greenhouse gases, air emissions, water use, waste generation, hazardous materials, recycled content, circularity, product safety, including food contact risk. So what makes SASB particularly useful is that it provides standardized metrics instead of every company reporting differently. SASB gives the sector a unified language for disclosure. So this supports both investor expectations and supply chain due diligence, especially as more brands align their reporting with ISP standards, not just in Malaysia. We are seeing this move from across the world. Most of the stock exchanges, regulators are basically enforcing ISSB standards. So we will soon live in a world that a company in Malaysia is comparable to a company in India or to a Europe. So, SASB gives the sector that common reporting language. Certification gives the evidence, and PPWR sets the performance bar, and NSRF brings whole Malaysia into the same architecture. So together they form a complete ecosystem for plastic and packaging compliance and competitiveness. I would also like to basically highlight on the ECA, which will impact most of you, especially the big installations, which are more than 21,600 gigajoules, or buildings more than 8,000 square meters. You are affected. So this act will actually is already in force. Most of the companies who are subjected will actually receive the letters from the SC starting first quarter next year. So you will have to appoint energy managers, you'll have to do energy benchmarks, you'll have to come with your reduction strategies, you have to reduce that, you have to perform energy audits, appoint energy managers, and finally actually be certified for ISO 50001 to ensure that you are basically following the regulation. So these are big shifts that's coming in, not just using renewable energy in your factories, but also driving towards energy efficiency, because it's very important to manage the load. And this act has penalties per clause up to 100,000 ringgit or 2 years in imprisonment. So this is one of those apps giving that mandatory empowerment to SC to basically enforce the necessary change. If you just look into the Malaysia Circular Economy Direction, so we all know that it's anchored on the recently launched Circular Economy Blueprint 2035. And we see we have been in the plastic roadmap for the last 5 years. And very important also to note the 13th master plan, which is actually going to be from 2026 to 2030, also emphasizes on the importance of circularity, and it's expected to deepen further. So, in Malaysia, we all know the issue with 39,000 tons of waste daily. Landfills are nearing capacity, so waste is actually our second largest emission source, and the shift from disposal to resource recovery is no longer optional, but it's actually structural. So as manufacturers in this landscape, landfill dependency becomes a risk and recycled feedstock becomes a competitive asset. Buyers are increasingly asking for diversion rates, recycling performance, and certified data. For listed companies, you will have no option. You will have to actually follow, because NSRF also asks under SASB standards. And waste systems are now influencing the supplier attractiveness. So this is also why, since the mandatory implementation of EPR is only expected in the next few years. So we thought that voluntary, we have to basically bring the companies up. It's also our responsibility as the market leader in the plastics and packaging industry, certification and assurance. So that's where in our flagship event, Sustainable Action Conference, we launched a voluntary zero waste to landfill pledge and rolled out certification pathways as well. So to ideally to create this into a movement, not just for companies who generate waste, but also creating an ecosystem of neutralization partners, financiers together. So it provides means in one place to basically address this particular issue. So our team is currently working on developing on the tracking baselining platforms, reduction platforms, and platforms to basically connect directly with neutralization providers. So it will provide that framework for measure, reduce landfill dependency, increase diversion, and verify performance through a third-party audits end of the day. So why this matters? It of course aligns with the national CE and climate policy direction. It enables credible, certified waste diversion claims. It strengthens the ESG reporting and brand trust, differentiates Malaysian exports globally, and build readiness to PPWR and future regulations to come. So looking into certification as a whole, certification has evolved as a way over the last number of years to ensure that the products are safer, the companies are more sustainable. It basically can be both single attribute or multi-attribute. When you see all these logos, everything does not mean the same. So it's different. Every logo actually carries a purpose. So certification translates that ambition of what companies have into proof. It standardized definitions, standardized methods, and have that documentation structure to prove. And even under PPWR, CSRD, and NSRF, in this evolving regulation setup, certification is becoming a language of trust. So there are various certifications. So if you're looking into assurance tax, start small, start with having proper management systems in place. So this can be all the way from ISO 9000, 14,000, 45,000 when it comes to occupational health and safety. ISO 50,001, especially with the ECA, this is actually coming into important on energy management systems. We have material claims from RCS, GRS, ISCC Plus, recycled content traceability, especially EN 15433 driven certifications like Resiclass and UNE EN 15343. We have schemes on pallet loss prevention, Operation Clean Sweep, which MPMA is actually chairing for Malaysia. And we see carbon and ESG verifications on ISO 14064, ISO 17029, and assurance, especially under A1000, ISA 3000, and ISSA 5000 to come. And we have also regimes for plastic credits under PPRS, PWRS, as well as OBP, and also social compliance is a very important topic for Malaysia because Malaysia is very much driven from migrant workers, especially in the manufacturing sector. So social compliance with SLCP, SMETA, and REP is actually becoming very, very important. So these are not just logos; these are market access tools. I'll basically quickly look into two very important things on Resiclass because the focus is actually on EN 15343. So Resiclass provides EN 15343 aligned certification for recycling processes and recycled contents. It verifies the recycled percentages and becomes key evidence for PPWR, plastic tax regimes, and sustainable reporting. So this allows manufacturers and recyclers to demonstrate verifiable, traceable recycled content rather than relying on claims or estimate, and it's actually ensures that you are legally compliant. Also, one of the concerns are when it comes to food contact, whether Resiclass can be used. So Resiclass came up with module alpha recently, so which basically just not been fully rolled out because the auditor training is actually still pending. So this will basically set Resiclass in line to meet the food contact regulations as well. But end of the day, Resiclass supports food contact recycling streams through stricter traceability, and input controls are aligned with EU 2022-1616 standard. But EFSA, the European authority, remains the authority to granting food contact authorization. But what we are seeing is the companies that we certify uses UNE, and the EFSA has already confirmed the acceptance with the EN regulations already. So Resiclass and UNE 15343 provides that operation and traceability backbone for food contact approvals uh, is still driven by the regulatory determination, but certification programs are increasingly have that level of acceptance. So where does we come in? As you all know, majority of you are actually our clients. So we are the world's largest certifier for plastics and recycling. So that also includes the elements of biofuels, advanced fuels, as well. We have set the tone in basically developing the world's first holistic recycling standard, like global recycling standard GRS was developed by Control Union. We developed the ocean-bound plastic scheme with zero plastic oceans, and every day you will hear that there's a new initiative coming up because it's our responsibility to ensure our clients are future-proofed. So the solutions that we drive, it basically meeting their future's ambitions. So this is also the reason why we basically design and roll out the zero waste to landfill movement as well. So essentially, Control Union supports companies across plastic life cycle, from pellets to recycled content verification, recyclability, zero waste systems to ESG assurance and carbon assurance, social compliance. So turning complex requirements into practical steps. So my final message, so the global direction is clear. More traceability, more verification, more accountability is needed. And Malaysia is entering same architecture, what we are seeing globally through NSRF and its circular economy policies and certification, especially EN 15343 base systems like Resiclass and UNE, turns compliance into competitive advantage, and movements like zero waste to landfill movement and related certification gives us that chance to lead, not to follow. Regulations defines the minimum, and leadership defines the future. And we see many companies in Malaysia using that leadership, whether you're big or small, try to be different. So you're not just driven by compliance, but you are creating a story for your companies where people can relate, which you are actually becoming more attractive in these markets. So altogether, the drive is actually to future proof. And that comes to a close of my session. And again, thank you very much for MPMA. And if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to take. Thank you very much. Over to you, Alvin.
Right, thank you, Mr. Nigamuni. I was trying to pay a lot of attention to your presentation, which is very important. I don't see any question from the floor, I think. You're going too fast, maybe. But yes. But I try to follow, your presentation is very important, especially on PPWR and all that. No, I don't think I don't think many people will know what is PPWR, which is very important. It is basically a packaging waste law in Europe that sets that wanted recyclability of 15% by 2040. And more important is that make packaging, all packaging recyclable by 2030. This is a very big move, so, things like mono-material packaging and all that is very important and coming in. This is real, this is law, this is not some regulation or some standards or whatever. This is law in Europe,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, Alvin.
Yeah, so it is important to highlight this, especially for exporters from Malaysia. And EECA is also a law, You say by Suruhanjaya, by ST, is it? Suruhanjaya Tenaga or SC?
Yeah,
Sorry?
yeah.
S. Is it ST or SC? I think
It's ST.
ST, Suruhanjaya Tenaga, lah. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, okay. All right. So, sorry, my question is there's so many standards and regulations that came out in recent years. You mentioned so many ISCC plus, GRS, Recyclass, EN 15343. All these, we are one of the exporter to Europe, and we are affected by all these standards. Um, and it is not uniform towards in the whole of Europe, you know. And what's your view? Is it this regulation? Is it regulation washing us? Regulation washing us? With so many things. Uh, for example, in Spain, initially they wanted SEC plus. Then we heard GRS, Global Recycling Standard, and at last they say you must have a receipt class.
Yeah.
If you don't have receipt class, then they don't recognize it. So what's your comment on this? Is it
Yeah.
over regulation or regulation washing and?
A very important point, Alvin. In certification and sustainability landscape, in terms of assurance, we have to understand there are voluntary norms, there are mandatory norms. So voluntary norms are basically driven by the acceptance of buyers or in the anticipation of future regulations. But once it's actually put in the law, it becomes compliance. So GRS, RCS, OBP, and things like ISCC plus, they are not regulatory, they are not compliance systems. So they are voluntary certification systems. So that's when EN 15343 on standardized recycled content calculations came in. That's where we see all the European buyers would be asking for Recyclass. All the European, and especially with the PPWR, sets that traceability law, not a packaging law, traceability law. It basically mandates recyclability and design recycling rules for all packaging by 2030. And like what you clearly mentioned, minimum percentage in 2030 rises to from 10 to 35%, and from 25 to 65% by 2040. And we are talking about PFS ban for food contact packaging from August 2026. So this is the regulatory landscape, and things like digital product passports are evolving. We are getting more and more requests for EPDs, environmental product disclosures. So we are seeing declarations. So we are seeing all the regulatory evolving, and the gap between voluntary and regulatory is actually diminishing very fast. So if you're exporting to Europe, if you want to be future proofed, you have to go for Recyclass, or you have to go for UNE 15343, especially when you're food contact at the moment, because food contact for Recyclass is actually going to be rolled out soon, but UNE is actually already there. So we will, this will actually keep on evolving again and again and again. But NSRF, since it basically looks into ISSB standards on the SASB standard for plastic containers and packaging, so it will basically standardize, because the same contents are captured there. So even though you're not sending to Europe, the local regimes will ensure that you have that means in place if you're a big company, or you're being affected from scope 3. But you're absolutely right, Alvin, this regime is actually evolving very fast. We have to be on top of it and anticipate changes. And as European certification bodies, and being the largest, so this is the direction we see that the company should take if you want yourself to be future proofed, because 2030, even though we think that it's 5 years in progress, these things will actually take a lot of time for you to get yourself in compliance, especially once the scope 3 requirements are fully enforced. So better start looking at now rather than waiting until things turn to a must. But PPWR, because it's going to be enforced from 26 onwards, so you will, most of the companies sending to Europe will actually start feeling the effect.
So this PPWR will based on which standard, Recyclass or GRS or ICC Plus, or there's so many of them, and each of them costs money, and each of them takes a lot of resources, time to get certified, so it is it is not and it is not uniform across Europe. Spain wants recyclers, then UK comes okay with GRS and all that. So what's your comment on that? And with PPWR, it is going to be law, so.
It is already law. PPWR is law. So
Would PPWR standardize all these standards?
PPWR basically looks into that standardized methods and very specifically laying out it has to be in compliant with EN 15343. So there's only two standards which is actually in line with EN 15343. One is Resiclas, which is the largest, and the second one is actually UNE EN 15343. So that's Spanish oriented, but it's basically accepted across Europe. So these two will actually be essential for either of these will be essential if you're exporting into the European market.
Okay, I see we've got some questions from Anuruddin. Is there any indication year that Malaysia's plan to move into PPWR regulation or compliance? What would be the challenge for Malaysia to adopt this PPWR, which is packaging and packaging waste regulation?
Yeah, so Malaysia, the basics are actually being set by the Circular Economy Roadmap for Solid Waste, but it's a roadmap, so it has not translated into regulations yet. So we will see when any country comes up with policy, the regulation framework will actually follow. Once the act is there, the regulations will come in. So we are seeing this is going to happen, but this will take some years because with the targets announced under the Circular Economy Roadmap. So for sure, this will happen. For the time being, I don't have a crystal ball to predict when it's actually going to come in. Most likely, it'll actually be very close to a 2030 that this is actually being rolled out. Yeah, but the means are available. And I believe most of the plastic recycling companies in Malaysia are export driven. And when you're export driven, EU is actually one of the main markets, and it's a market that the others actually starts following. EU has actually become a bit of a laughing stock these days with the regulations and postponements, withdrawals, and likewise. But the direction is actually very clear. So when we talk about future proofing, it's always important to actually be prepared. And Alvin, also to answer your question previously, that all these exercises have actually become quite expensive. This is a cost. Of course, it's actually it has actually become expensive because there's more effort needed, more resources needed, and but it's when it comes to compliance, again, it's a very easy answer. So if you think compliance is difficult, try non-compliance. And even with the local regimes like ECA, we are looking into 100,000 ringgit or 2 years imprisonment. If SC asks for information you don't provide, they can penalize you up to 100,000 or 2 years imprisonment. If you don't appoint a REM, if you don't appoint a RIA, if you don't adhere to different clauses, they can actually penalize you per clause. So we'll have to see how this enforcement is actually being affected in the longer scheme of things. So yeah, let's but you have to start now and work towards. So SASB standards and mandating the larger companies to basically get into the same regime will basically normalize a lot of things. And there are a lot of financial incentives available in a country like Malaysia, especially with the Income Tax Act provisions for management systems and other schemes under local accreditation, trade development grants, I believe. Damien will actually share on that. And in addition to that, there's MIDA DIAFs, and if the government facilities are exhausted, or you don't want to go through those bureaucracies, there's always financial institutions like Alliance Bank who have rolled out very impressive schemes to look into the compliance, and we are very excited to work with Kevin and the team with Alliance Bank in basically rolling out that particular assurance. So basically, the companies are ready, and the necessary financing facilitation is actually being provided by Alliance Bank. So these are how I look into it. So it's inevitable. So it's best to prepare.
I've got another question here, Mr. Nikamuni. It says, other than the plastic and packaging, are there any material listed under the regulation and compliance of circular economy? Any other material besides plastic and packaging?
Yeah, everything. Because we are looking into, if we say the circular economy roadmap in Malaysia, we're looking into the whole circular economy part for solid waste. So solid waste is actually not just plastic and packaging. So it's paper waste, wood waste, food waste, everything is looking into. So when we are also rolling out the zero waste to landfill movement, so and when the systems are being rolled out beginning of next year, you will if you use those systems, you can easily uh, do your benchmarking, establishing that baseline, which is actually very important, and then come with identifying the priorities, come with those reduction programs, so you can basically reduce your own waste. And there's a lot of government facilities available, and even for individuals now, you're being offered tax rebate to for food digesters for organic waste. So there's a lot of things looks into. So solid waste is much broader. It's not just plastics and packaging. It's everything what is actually solid.
Okay, there's another one. I did read about depolymerization technology. Wait, what's this? Maybe it refers to non-usage of plastic, maybe, which related to circular economy for plastics. How can we assure that this technology is sustainable, which this technology is not pollutant, uh, free polluting the environment?
Too technical question, beyond my technical depths, when it comes to this kind of a question.
The
But we can definitely check with our experts in house and basically come in. But we had the same concerns on chemical recycling applications as well, and technology was actually expensive. Technology was difficult, and we are seeing more and more that the technology is actually becoming easily accessible and compliant. So first thing, whatever the technology, it has to actually comply with the rules and regulations. So uh, so I think everything will actually be aligned. So if the prices, the compliance has to be met for a technology to actually move forward. More information, please feel free to write to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer.
the next is building and construction waste, also part of the circular economy roadmap by the Malaysian government. Building and
Uh,
construction waste.
in theory, yes, because it actually comes as a solid waste. But I'm not sure whether it's actually fully spelled out as it is in the circular economy roadmap. But there's more and more orientation into recycled products, reclaimed products. So this is essentially end of life products. So there's good business cases when it comes to wood, when it comes to steel recycling, because steel and aluminum is actually high emitting sectors. So in those sectors, using recycled material has actually become a norm. And using replacing fossil fuels for EFB and the other forms of biomass is actually becoming more and more increasing. So I'm not exactly sure whether it's spelled out in that sense in the circular economy roadmap. Feel free to actually have a look, but definitely there's a business case there, and we see companies moving in that direction.
What practical steps should Malaysian manufacturers take now to meet the ECGT's new requirement on sustainability claims. ECGT, I think it meant,
ECGT, I
I
have to
think it
think
meant
about it.
EECA, probably.
Yeah, but it talks about sustainability claims or sustainability.
What
That's
is
maybe not the same.
ECGT anyway?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I can't comment on that.
Too many abbreviation, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, we shoot over time by quite a bit. So I need to put this to an end while we are having fun. So I need to thank you very much, Mr. Supun Nigamoni, for the interesting exchanges. Uh, we will now move to the
Thank you
next
very much.
speaker. Thank you very much. Um, the next speaker is Mr. Kevin Sean Fernandez, Vice President of Group Sustainability and Strategic Partnership for Alliance Bank Malaysia Berhad. He leads collaboration to drive the bank's Sustainability Impact Program, SIP, Sustainability Impact Program, and strengthen sustainability adoption through the bank's three through the bank's 3S framework, or 3A, sorry, 3A's framework, which is advocacy, advisory, and answers. With over 20 years of experience in product development, portfolio management, digital strategy, and partnership across major banks, including OCBC and Standard Chartered, he has built strong industry collaboration with organizations such as Bursa Malaysia, Invest Sarawak, and Monash University, or my alma mater. Um,
Thank you, Elvin. I suppose that's the cue for me to come in.
yes, sorry. Yeah.
No,
Yes, you have the floor. Thank you.
thanks a lot for that introduction, and very good morning to everyone. And yeah, thank you to MPMA for having me speak at this session. So it was a good start off. We got Supon to share about policies related to the plastic manufacturing sector. Very interesting conversations on all acts that are coming in, the reason to go circular. So my session is going to focus a lot on a bit of the work that we do around research on sustainability and how it ties back to manufacturing, as well as some of the financing incentives and programs that are there. And then I'll try to address some of the questions that were asked earlier as well. Some were technical as well. I do agree with Supon on that. But yeah, let's just move on to the first slide and to jump right into it. So if you look at Alliance Bank, I suppose I don't need to introduce Alliance Bank. We're a local-based bank, close to 80 branches nationwide. And we're very sustainable in terms of how we support businesses in the country. We have a target of 17 billion that we want to hit by the end of 2028. We are close to 15 billion or slightly surpass that as we speak now. And the intention is to ensure we have the right schemes, the right programs to help manufacturers, businesses in their transition journey. Now, moving along, I think the best way to describe our program in terms of how we look at sustainability, and I think, Elvin, it's the 3A's. And we look at it from advocacy, advice, and answers. And under advocacy, I'll speak about some of the work that we've done on research. And research is important because if you look at 2-3 years ago, a lot of the statistics, the insights were coming from out of Malaysia, right? And we felt that there's a need to gather data to see what the impact sustainability brought to businesses, right? What were some of the challenges? What were some of the motivations as well? And that's important because once you understand this, then you can form the solutions or help that's needed to help companies. Now, this is a bit of the advocacy that we do. This is a research piece that was launched in 2023, a bit of a baseline. And recently this year, back in January, we launched the second edition, right, to see where we are. It gave a barometer of where Malaysian businesses are. We did this research together with our partners, Monash University, SME Corp, UN Global Compact, Malaysia, Brunei. And you can see awareness is up, right, as well as adoption. I think there's a lot of forums, a lot of stakeholders, and I think everyone is to take credit from this in driving the awareness. If you deep dive into a sector perspective, you will see manufacturing sector leads among the rest, followed by construction, by services, and the rest. And that's the reason, because of policies, right, where a lot of markets that the plastic manufacturers yourself export to, they have these requirements. It's a function of the local clients, listed clients, that have a lot of requirements that you need to adhere to, and hence why we are seeing this jump. Now, the other A is actually on advice and answers. And if I move into before I move into advice, I want to share a little bit about what we've launched recently together with Monash University and Cradle. It's actually called an Innovation Impact Lab. And why this is relevant is because it kind of answers some of the questions that were asked just now. Depolymerization technology is very new. I just heard about it just now. But what this lab wants to achieve is actually bring in solutions that are very new, maybe not proven yet, to see whether, from a technology perspective, whether it's viable. So what we want to do is work with partners, complementary partners, everyone bringing in their own key competency. Monash with the expertise, they have many educationists who are specialized in the field of engineering and technology. We have a lot of our programs and financing support, and Cradle has the whole ecosystem to ensure that this whole partnership and this whole collaboration gels together, right? Bringing in as well as funding and new market access. So the idea here is actually a theme around technology and circularity. We feel circularity is key, and especially for the plastic sector, right? If you look at it, you see that a lot of news or a lot of positive development has actually come from this space, right? And it's kudos to the sector and the players, right? Actually taking waste, plastic waste, giving it a second life, upcycling it, doing better waste management handling. And again, the technology also seems to support this. It's more advancing in this space. So in short, this lab is meant to help bring in solutions, test it, right? Or come in with problem statements as well. So it need not be just solutions. The idea is to be able to match and see what works. And the end goal is to replicate this with others, to share it with others, so that there's a lot more lower barrier to entry. I think together, as we learn and we understand some of the viable technology, I think we can bring a lot more efficiency in this space. So if I move along, now the second A was actually on advice. And instead of talking about it, I thought I'll just give you an example of some of the advice that we've done, or advisory, right, that we've done. So one of the programs that we run is actually a corporate decarbonization program for the supply chain, for the suppliers of the corporate. And I've picked this example that we've worked with EcoWorld to share. And why is because it's one of those engagements that are in a bit more of the advanced stage in terms of how we progress, right? We've engaged more than 150 of their suppliers. And just this last 6 months, we've done another batch in KL and Johor as well. But in short, what we do is basically help the suppliers get a basic understanding, right, of what sustainability is to them. We use inputs from the research that show, well, not just from a compliance perspective that you need to get on board, but also there is also bottom line advantages, right? And what I mean by that is the research has shown that if you look at companies in Malaysia that have actually embarked on sustainability, they have actually seen incremental revenue, better cost efficiencies, as well as higher productivity. And the cost efficiencies could come in the form of implementing renewable, managing their waste in a more efficient manner. Revenues could be opening, the avenue of opening up new markets as well. So we share And from there, we go into a bit of a practical workshop to ensure suppliers, who mostly consist of SMEs, are able to get a diagnostics done on where they lie in their business. So we have this diagnostics tool called Progress that we've co-developed with UN Global Compact. And it's a simple yes-no analysis looking at 3 dimensions: climate governance, GHG emission reduction, and business strategy integration. A quick screenshot there on your left kind of gives you a view of it. So on the left side, you can see a climate report that basically tells the business where you are in these 3 dimensions. There's also a scale that lets them know where they lie. Are they a beginner, a laggard, or are they a bit more mature, right, an expert? But more important is what's on the right-hand side of that screen that you see is actually a roadmap to improve, right? And that's kind of listing out what are the low-hanging fruits that you can do to move to the next level. Some of it may involve costs, but I think it's good to have a view, because this is a customized report that helps guide your business and kind of provide a bit of a compass of what you should do next. Now, I mentioned that we run this as a corporate supply chain program. Now, what the corporates get, for example, someone like EcoWorld, is you actually get a dashboard, a 360 view of all your suppliers. What are some of their gaps when it comes to the whole climate performance levels? What are areas that they need support? Who are the leaders? Who are the suppliers who are leaders as well? So if you go into the next slide, this kind of gives a little bit of view of how the diagnostics tool looks like. And what I've just shared just now in terms of how we've worked to run this with the suppliers. Now, the next slide kind of gives you a view of how the data looks like, right? So it's actually deep dive. It gives a perspective. Now, for this example, if you look at EcoWorld, majority of their suppliers were actually in the lower band, in the laggard and beginner stage, right? And the focus then was to look at what was the reason for this. Now, with the data that we had, we could dive in and see that it was attributed to GHG emissions. Everyone thought it was rocket science. They didn't know how to calculate that. So we had a follow-up workshop to run Scope 1, Scope 2 calculations for the suppliers, help them develop a climate policy, talk to them about waste management efficiencies, right? And the result is in the following slide, right? You can see that there's been 75% improvement. They've actually moved out of the lower band. They are able to access preferential financing, because we as a bank tie financing rates to these climate levels, right? So the incentive is, as you improve, you have access to better financing rates from Alliance Bank. And of course, we want to be able to support them with solutions as well. Now, if you look at another program that we run pretty well, is also related to working with state bodies. I think it was mentioned just now during the intro, people like Invest Sarawak. But I'll spend a bit of time, in the interest of time, just talking about who we are working with recently, and that's with the Penang State, with Penang Green Council. And also together with MPMA. Now, what we've worked on is a couple of researches that have taken place. So I shared about ESG Research 1.0, 2.0 that we launched in January. Just want to add that we also had a Sarawak State report that we launched in May this year, giving a perspective of where Sarawak businesses were relative to sustainability practices. We have coming soon a manufacturing sector playbook. I think this also kind of addresses a bit of a question that was asked just now on what are some of the practices that should be done by manufacturers? What are the good practices? So happy to share that we are looking at launching this playbook early next year, which is, if you look at where we are today, it's just about probably a month away. So we're going to launch this, and the intention here is to basically provide real-life examples of local Malaysian manufacturers that have embedded ESG in their operations, in their business strategy, and managed to transform the business, or managed to scale and get new access to new markets. And again, the idea here is to look across the value chain, and in the value chain, see who are those who are successful, tell their story, tell their challenges, with the intention of helping others learn at a faster rate, and put some of these practices in place. A lot of focus on waste management as well. And we have looked into some of the MPMA members as well to see those who are actually having best practices that we can tell their stories in this playbook. So do look out for this, which will be out in the first quarter of next year. Now, moving along, if I could just spend a bit of time on the second plan that we're running with the state, is actually looking, and this could be a bit more interest to everyone here. It's actually focused on running a climate mitigation fund to support a lot of manufacturers in the Penang state with ESG adoption. And again, if you see what this whole program is about, it's about ensuring that we are able to help manufacturers in the space of EE plastics, precision engineering, and aerospace with access to, well, not only rates, but capacity building, ESG training, see where you are, provide advisory, any certifications that are relevant as well. And the intention of the state is eventually to be able to identify and classify manufacturers who are most sustainable versus those that are not. And even if you're not, then the intention is to help you close the gap, right? Eventually, we want to be able to work with the state to make supply chains more resilient, to differentiate suppliers who have a lot more sustainable product materials in their product line, and to be able to communicate this to broader markets, right? So that this can then influence and bring in more investments, either from local or abroad. We've got a bit of eligibility criteria that we're looking at as well. So it's going to be, of course, for mainly Malaysian registered companies. Again, it's a state fund, so it has to be for those manufacturers who are based in Penang. And we're not looking at the larger scale companies, the listed ones. It's more for those with a revenue of 5 to 250 million. And again, there are some other criteria that we're finalizing before we launch this next year. So stay tuned on this. We'll continue to share more. There's some more information on this in the press as well. So moving along, I think I just want to spend a bit of time, the next 5 minutes, to run through some of the financing schemes which Alliance Bank has deployed to support businesses, plastic manufacturers. And again, this one and the next scheme is more for SME size manufacturers. So SME size as defined by 50 million revenue and below, or employees of 250 and below, right? Now, if you look at this scheme, why I share this scheme is because, one, it's 50% funded by the Malaysian government, or Bank Negara has enabled funding. So hence why the financing rates, the tenor, as well as the quantum is significant. And you would see that the purpose is for low carbon transition, right? And we use this word very loosely, but I want to spend a bit of time to explain what that is, right? What it means to manufacturers is it can actually tie back to any capex investments that you need to make related to energy efficiency, right? Machinery that you're buying, forklifts that are moving away from diesel and into more battery-based solutions, right? These are all low carbon. If you're, of course, the straightforward one is tapping on renewable energy, solar energy. I think that's a given. Mobility is a key focus as well. Now, if I move into the next slide, I got some examples just to talk about it. So solar, I think it's clear cut. This is definite. And of course, what has gained a lot more traction now is battery energy storage solutions. If you want to couple your solar solution with a battery storage so that then you can store the excess and use it during the later part of the day to tie in with your operations. So that is something that can be financed under the scheme as well, including the basic solar PV systems. But moving on, you would see that I was talking about energy efficient solutions. So if you're looking at boilers, chillers, if you're looking at waste management solutions, right? Buying machines that actually are reducing waste because they cut in a more precise manner, right? Or you're setting up a production line, right? And the whole production line actually is more efficient than your earlier production line. And logically, that will be the case because the previous production line was set up years ago using less energy efficient technology, very likely. And as the new machines are more energy efficient, hence less consumption, which ties back to less emission, right? So we're able to finance this sort of examples, right? Uh, I got most examples to talk through. In the next slide, you would see what I spoke about related to waste. Now, this one is a bit more tied to bioenergy, not so much skewed towards manufacturing, but to give you a sense, manufacturing, it would be equipments that are using laser technology, equipments that help with less waste less waste being produced, as I shared just now, less plastic waste. And again, some of the technology that was mentioned just now as well, a very nascent technology. We can look at it, evaluate it together, and see if it qualifies under the scheme as well. So this is not an exhaustive list, just to put it out there. Okay, moving along. In addition, green mobility, I spoke about EV forklifts, movers, setting up of charging stations, and again, many examples there. But I feel this is just meant to give you an idea of what the financing scheme can be used to support. So we have broadened it, right? First, when we started this scheme, it was launched for solar, but we one of the first banks to open this across solar to make sure that we can support the purpose. And the purpose is any solution that has low carbon emission. Okay. Now, besides that, there's also a bit of area that you can cover, which is actually related to any capacity building. So if you as a company are looking at running some of these certifications, I think Control Union Supon just now kind of shared some of the certifications which are related to the plastic manufacturing industry. And of course, with certifications comes capacity building, transfer of knowledge, skills, upskilling that takes place. So if that's something that you want to do, we can definitely discuss on how we can structure that under this scheme as well. Because whatever you're doing does bring a positive impact to the environment. And we want to make sure that we're able to support all consultancy training and certifications that are related. Now, I think I just want to share one more scheme, which is the high-tech and green facility. And this one is also a government scheme for SME size. And it's to help with adoption of green tech and digital solutions, more to help companies be ready for IR 4.0. It kind of specifies what are some of those sectors here. Again, not exhaustive. And you can see the rates are clearly stated there, as well as the other loan features. But again, this is meant if you're adopting any digital solution or technology, as well as it has a green element to it. So if you are a green solution provider and you are actually marketing your solution out there, any green technology, again, you can tap on this scheme as well. So it's not just purely for manufacturers and ICT players, it's also for green tech solution providers as well. And I want to go into maybe for larger companies, right? But before I go into that, one more final scheme for SMEs is the automation and digitization facility. This one is more for the purchase of equipment, computer hardware, software, and again, helping you put in more efficient technologies and solutions in your businesses. Again, for more companies who are Malaysian registered, Malaysian owned, and straightforward in terms of this funding, it has competitive interest rates. Again, collateral is not required, so that makes it very interesting. Why these schemes are all very attractive is because there's no collateral, right? And it's an unsecured loan. It's backed by government schemes like CGC and SJPP, and that then makes the access to these schemes a lot more easier. Okay, I think getting to my last slide, which is basically for larger companies. Now, if you look at larger companies beyond SME, there are also popular schemes that you should tap on. The more popular one is the GTFS scheme, launched by MGTC. It's actually a 1 billion allocation that was done by the government under the previous budget to help companies to adopt green technology. What's interesting about the scheme is because whatever rate you get from the bank, again, it's distributed by Alliance Bank. So whatever rate you get from the bank, you actually have a rebate of up to 1.5%. And the ticket sizes are a lot more bigger, right? So it's beyond 10 million. It goes up to 100 million. Certain projects, it can go up to 200 million as well. The tenors can stretch for 15, 20 years as well. And it's for everything non-solar, right? So as long as you're embarking on a green solution for your business, this is a scheme that's very popular in the market, and the funds are still available. Now, besides that, we've also structured sustainability-linked loans, bonds, green bonds, or sukuks, which are tied to sustainability performance targets, right? Again, we can work together to define what those are and how we want to control the use of proceeds. We've launched a couple recently in the market with some of the property developers, and we're definitely interested to see how we can structure one for a plastic manufacturer, tied either to GHG emission baselines or any other sustainability target which is validated. But yeah, I suppose I just want to end with the final slide that if you're interested in any piece of information that I shared, you can reach out to me. And again, thank you to MPMA for this session. And I hand back to Elvin for the next section.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Very interesting. When you say it is uncollateral, you don't have to sign personal guarantee. There's nothing at all. No.
Well, the collateral, not collateral secured means you don't have to pledge a property or you don't have to have one-to-one FD pledge. Now, the guarantees come in depending on the financial situation or the condition of the company, right? So what I mean by that, if you're a large company borrowing a high revenue, you're borrowing a portion of that revenue, 1%, 2%, straightforward. But the practice is always to have that guarantees in place. As a bank, I must admit, we always have that guarantees that come in to ensure that, well, one is we want to make sure that a lot of the financing that we given out usually ties back to the leadership in the company, the expertise, the experience of the company. So when we give financing, usually it evaluates the project, but there's also an element of the key men, which tend to be directors in the company, due to their expertise, due to their knowledge, due to the market experience that they have. So to answer your question, in short, it is usually bundled together with the loan. It's usually a condition of the loan to have those guarantees in place too. And that ensures the success of the project that's being embarked on, and then keeps that whole cycle of funding going, right? Because we want to make sure that loan can be paid back so that we can lend it to the next business out there.
Okay, when you say credit complete with a guarantee fee, how much is the guarantee fee? I assume is this from CGC?
Yes, correct. It can range from 0.5, 1.5, depending on which scheme you're embarking on. But I think on average, you can say about 1%.
1%, okay.
Yeah.
So net will be 4%, low carbon for LCDF.
Oh, that one is all in already, actually.
Yeah, I know. So you minus off the 1% is 4% bank.
Oh, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
That's right, Alvin.
So the 1% will go to it varies, is it? The guarantee fee?
No, it's fixed. It's fixed. It's
Fixed at
pretty much fixed.
1%.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Got it. So GTFS is quite interesting. A rebate of 1.5%, depending when you say 1.5%,
So
it's after the bank's term sheet, is it? Because
yes, correct. It's based on that. So whatever rate, commercial rate that you get. So under this scheme, the banks are still left to evaluate the financing, and
Mhm.
then there's a rate that's offered, and there will always be the market rate, the commercial rate, whatever the customer negotiates and agrees to. For example, this is for larger segment companies. So let's say the rate is about 6% or 5% all in. What happens is that under GTFS scheme, at the end of every year, there will be a 1.5% that comes back into the client's account. And this is because it's subsidized by the government. The government actually pays for that. So depending on the loan tenor, to see the full benefit, you would have to aggregate the every year what that amount is.
oh, this is very interesting. It's new to us. Anyway, which department in the government that gives this rebate?
Oh, so this is
Negara?
uh,
Or
it is of course all schemes are under Bank Negara's purview, but this particular scheme has been tabled approved, and it's run by one of the government agencies called MGTC, the Malaysian Green
oh,
Tech Corporation.
right, right.
And they basically do the assessments, to ensure the project is certified as a green project, because there needs to be a level of certification that takes place to endorse that project, and then they manage the rebate in terms of how it gets channeled back to the client.
Exclusively administered by Alliance Bank. No other banks can touch it.
No, I can't say that. I would love to say that, but unfortunately, it's I think for the good, right? I think if you want sustainable financing to go out into the market, you need broad distribution,
Yeah.
and most major banks distribute this scheme out. So very open. You can go to your existing banker, and they would be able to support you with this as well.
Okay, we've got a question here, Mr. Fernandez. Does the climate mitigation fund support financing for companies aiming to improve waste management and resource efficiency? And what types of sustainability programs are covered under the scheme for manufacturers? Are
Okay.
other sectors to qualify for preferential rate as well?
Okay. Thank you. Good question. So the straightforward answer is yes. This definitely qualifies. Waste management is something that is the state is very passionate about. In terms of what those capacity building, we have some of those tools. We're getting the full picture because the fund is not officially launched yet. We signed the MOU a couple of weeks ago with the state, and the idea is to launch the fund in 2026. And during that launch, we'll be able to share a lot more detail on what are some of those tools that we want to enable to the Penang businesses, right, to help them with improvements. I think there was a second part to that question, which were what were the sectors? I kind of listed down those sectors in my slides. I think we're going to distribute the slides after this. So probably you will have a view of all those sectors. It's very manufacturing based because, as you know, Penang is a bit of a heartbeat of where the manufacturing industry is in Malaysia. So a lot of focus on manufacturers. And those are the sectors that we're going to prioritize first as a phase one, and then expand from that, depending on what we learn and how the response is. So the fund is we're looking at 100 million size to as a first pilot, and we want to get 20 million out into the market. That's the idea. But yeah, we'll share more details as we finalize it with the state folks.
So what's the role of the state in this? And is the Green Council administering or vetting the approved process?
So the good question. Actually, we're working with the state to see how we can mobilize this in a more more cohesive manner, right? Giving it to those businesses that are embarking on projects validated. One, governance will be both parties together. We're going to jointly have a governance set up to manage the fund. And the ambition of the state is basically, as I shared during my session, to basically help the manufacturers close some of those gaps that they have in their businesses, help manufacturers close that by getting access to the right modules, the right training, right certifications, right solutions. The second is those who are a bit more advanced, a bit more ahead, then to see what else they can do. If it's related to waste management, then yes, new technologies that are proven through a lab or through intense study that can be scaled, then we want to introduce that as well. And again, support that with financing and whatever skill set that needs to be done as well. So we're putting together this program. It's going to be on a phased basis, as I shared just now, and that's the intention in terms of what I can share up to this point. I don't want to kind of share ahead.
Okay. So is the approving authority the Penang Green Council?
No, it's still the bank. Still the bank.
Okay.
Resource-wise, it's still leveraging on what the bank is good at, which is our core business, right? Risk
So it is
management.
exclusively an Alliance Bank program.
It is for now, for start, yes. We're doing all the hard work and getting this up and running. But long term, I think the vision is to open up, as I shared earlier.
All right, it's now 11:30. We're back on schedule, I think. Oh no, we are late by half an hour. Sorry. So we'll have to end the session. I need to introduce the next speaker. And our final speaker for today is Mr. Damien Santosh Sampson, Head of ESG Unit at Malaysian External Trade Development Corporation, or MATRADE, where he leads efforts to integrate sustainability and ESG principles into Malaysia's trade strategies. With 18 years of service, he advises exporters on sustainable practices, works closely with stakeholders to align policies and champion responsible and ethical trade to enhance Malaysia's global competitiveness. He previously served as the Trade Commissioner of MATRADE Milan and MATRADE Shanghai, bringing extensive international experience and expertise in managing key strategic projects. Actually, MATRADE has got a lot of trade commission which we can use, all over the world, actually, just for the benefit of the attendees. So without further ado, we'll pass the session to Mr. Santosh.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I would like to record my appreciation to MPMA for giving us the opportunity to be here with all of you and to share. As compared to the other two presenters, today I will be talking to you on the importance of sustainability and ESG practices in the context of international trade. All right. So I'll just quickly start off on the relevance of sustainability to Malaysian exporters. Right? Is it a disruption or an opportunity? Right? I've been moving around for about a year, ever since I took up this particular portfolio, and talking to many SMEs in particular. A lot of them are seeing it as a hurdle, or they've got certain challenges when it comes to adopting or considering ESG practices into their business operations. But as an exporter, we tell them that they have to start looking into these practices because of some of the reasons that I'm going to outline here. Firstly, we've got a lot of international policies, that have been introduced, especially in advanced markets like EU, with regards to compliance to ESG practices. Right. Besides that, we've also seen a new rising consumer expectation, whereby we've got a certain group of consumers who have started to look for products that are responsibly manufactured. right? And of course, we've got stakeholder pressures as well, which includes your internal as well as your external stakeholders, right? So these are just some of the types of the international frameworks and all that we are having, all right? The standards and frameworks that are out there. I think Supun have mentioned some of it, and these are the types of frameworks that is, I think, that would be crucial for our Malaysian exporters to know in order for them to ensure compliance with global sustainability expectations. All right, and by doing this, you also can improve your market access and competitiveness as well. Right. All right. There's some international due diligence policies by in terms of markets. As you can see, this due diligence on ESG by markets is becoming a key factor for exporters as governments, investors, and also consumers now demand greater transparency and accountability in their supply chains. All right. And failure for Malaysian companies to meet with these ESG criteria can often result in trade restrictions that we have seen recently in some sectors in Malaysia as well, loss of business opportunities, as well as the reputational risk that is very difficult for you to come out after if you are implicated. All right. These are just some mandatory ESG reporting in countries that you can see, almost 35 nations and regions representing almost 56% of the global GDP are rolling out mandatory ESG reporting. And there are over nearly about 1,000 over regulations all over the world, with regards to ESG compliance, right? And there's more to come, as you can see. Right? In my negotiations with some of the companies, a lot of them are telling us that, look, Damien, this regulations are only compulsory for EU-based companies, all right? But while to a certain extent it is true, but once these companies are required to calculate their scope 3 emissions, or they're required to disclose details of the supply chain, then indirectly it will affect the Malaysian exporters, especially who are exporting to these advanced countries. Right? So we're trying to talk to the Malaysian companies, the SMEs, to tell them that, look, if you are planning to do business overseas, you've got to start looking into adopting ESG principles into your manufacturing or your business operations. All right. This is what I mentioned to you earlier about consumer expectation. We've seen a growing trend or a change in consumer behavioral pattern, whereby this is with regards to a survey that has been done, whereby you can see 37% would switch brands if another product shared more detailed ESG information. Right? And 73% would pay more for a product if a brand were transparent about their sourcing and manufacturing. And 94% are likely to remain loyal to a brand that offers transparent ESG data. So you've got this type of consumers also who have started to look into consuming products that have strong ESG principles embedded into them. Stakeholder pressure, you've got your internal as well as your external stakeholders. All right, they are expecting companies to operate responsibly by minimizing the environment impact, ensuring ethical labor practices, maintaining transparency, and demonstrating strong corporate governance. Stakeholder pressure, I think you've heard it from Kevin just now. He represents the bank. So banks are also making this a very important element with regards to giving out financing to companies or projects that have strong ESG principles embedded within them. Stakeholder pressure, like I mentioned to you, investors, we've seen a few investors coming to Matrade as well. Some of them go to MIDA, but we've also seen some inquiries coming to us, and they wanted to invest into some ESG company or ESG projects here in Malaysia. And some of the few things that they've asked is whether these companies have got ESG disclosures or sustainability reports that they can have a look at before they decide whether they want to invest or do any kind of collaboration with the Malaysian companies. Buyers, this is very important. This is our bread and butter. As what Alvin mentioned just now, we've got a network of 47 offices now all over the world, the second largest after Wisma Putra. And all of these offices are headed by trade commissioners, whereby they are in touch with a lot of buyers. right? The institutional buyers, the local distributors, and also other smaller distributors as well. But we have seen some of the feedback that we've been receiving from the Malaysian trade commissioners, my colleagues out there. They've indicated that especially the bigger buyers in advanced markets have started asking us whether they've got the Malaysian exporters that we are matching them with have ESG disclosures or sustainability reports. They started before we give them the profile of the Malaysian companies in order to complement the selection process. They've started also to ask us whether these companies got sustainability reports. So that is something that we are also pushing uh, our agenda through the Malaysian exporters to start ESG disclosures as well, because buyers have also started asking us for it. All right, it has become one of their selection criteria. Staying competitive with ESG, who is affected, whether you're a Malaysian exporter, whether you're a direct or indirect exporter, once you're part of the global supply or value chain, you are affected. All right, this is what we've been trying to embed into our exporters that are registered with Madrid. As long as you start exporting, or once you become an exporter, you've got to start thinking like an international company, and you have to be agile and very sensitive to the surroundings or the requirements that are required in the international markets. So along the way, when usually we have this kind of conversations or engagements with the Malaysian company, we talk to them about the different regulations, IFRS, ISSB, GRI, and all the other abbreviations and the alphabet soup that a lot of them know about now. They all get very scared and they are a bit worried. So when we talk to them and we ask them, we project this slide. We tell them, look, in the environment pillar, if you are doing any one of this, the social pillar, if you're doing any one of this, and then the governance pillar, if you are doing any one of this, you can already start doing your ESG disclosures, right? And a lot of them, when they see it, they tell, hey, Damien, I'm already doing 1, 2, 3, this, I already have this, I already have. So we tell them, yes, that is true. You start small, all right, you've got all these things, you can start doing your ESG disclosure, but every year you have to improvise and ensure that you've got certain what you call it milestones that you hit to be enabled to achieve better or do more things with regards to adopting ESG principles into their daily business operations. Right? And then by doing that, we also tell them you are able to reduce your operational costs, right? While doing that, you spur innovation. We've got a lot of companies in certain sectors that started to recycle their waste, and they found out that but that particular waste is needed for inputs for another sector. So you're able to monetize that particular activity, and it's another new source of income to the company as well. Right? By doing this, you take care of your workers, you achieve higher employee satisfaction and retention, and most importantly, you are able to mitigate risk. All right, you don't get into any trouble with the law, or your products being stopped at borders because you've got certain non-compliance in any one of these particular pillars. Right? Of course, we have to warn them to ensure that whatever you're doing, whatever you are disclosing and reporting, you have to make sure that you do it, or else you can get into trouble, because there's this particular term called greenwashing, whereby you have to ensure that whatever you do, you're really doing it, right? Madrid and ESG, why are we in this particular space? I know the topic of sustainability and ESG has been around for some time now. There are many certain parties have different reasons why they want to push this particular agenda. But as for Madrid, we are only focused on ensuring that our exporters comply, because it's important for them to have market access in these advanced markets, who are making it very compulsory, making it compulsory for companies with strong ESG principles and disclosures. All right. By doing so, we raise the profile of Malaysian companies through industry branding. We participate in international events and pavilions, Malaysian pavilions in key iconic trade shows. When we do that, I remember there was one particular sector whereby we had a Malaysia pavilion in that particular market, and almost 95% of the participants or the companies that participated in that particular event were companies who had green products, companies who had ESG or sustainability reports. So we branded them in that our narrative to that particular market. The buyers was to strategically position them in that market. All right, and that particular advertising or that promotion angle managed to raise a lot of interest, and we managed to get a lot of visitors coming to visit us in that particular pavilion. So we raised the profile of Malaysian and companies in this particular market. We strategically position them in that particular market. By doing so, indirectly, we raised the profile of Malaysia in terms of country branding, and also we enhanced the action related to our sustainable development goals that we have as well as a nation. Right? These are just some of the programs that we are currently running. All right, the greening of the export supply chain program is something similar to this, what I'm doing now. But in most instances, I reach out to a group of companies from certain sectors, and we have a deep conversation with them. We talk to them. We try to see what are their concerns. I try to talk to them. Why is it important for these markets? We give them insights on what are the information or what are the types of requirements that the buyers that we are in touch with are looking for. All right. So that's the greening of the export supply chain initiative that we usually talk to Malaysian companies. We've got a pathway whereby we guide them on how to start the journey as well. It doesn't cost them a lot. They've got a lot of tools provided by MITI, Securities Commission. We've got our sister agencies like MIDA and the Malaysian banks that are providing funding for them as well, right? Even Matrade, we work with a few other non-government, non-profit organization and NGOs also to help them come up with labor handbooks and things like that, which are all free of charge. These tools are also free of charge that are offered to them. So once they see that there's a low-cost pathway, and they come back to us, and we handhold them to a certain extent by introducing them to these partners. All right. So this is the engagement that we do under the greening of the export supply chain initiative. Of course, we also have to talk to our colleagues in different ministries and agencies as well. So I go out and be part of certain meetings or discussions with ministries, agencies, and also to tell them why is ESG or sustainability important in the context of international trade. We give our inputs in that particular perspective so that these particular points can be taken into consideration when they're doing policies related to sustainability and ESG as well. Some of the financial assistance that we have, Market Development Grant and Services Export Fund for certification for exports. So if you have any certification relating to exports that have got something to do with ESG and sustainability, that can be claimed under the Market Development Grant for manufacturing companies and Services Export Fund for services-based companies. So this is a questionnaire that we usually just send out to Malaysian companies to try to understand where they currently stand. I think you've got about 6 to 7 questions only. Firstly, we would ask you if you have a sustainability report. And if you do have a sustainability report, you will be in the group of companies whereby we take you for international trade shows. We strategically position you in those particular markets among our buyers throughout the network of our Trade Commissioner's Office. If you do not have sustainability reports, then we've got a training division whereby if we have any training related to sustainability reporting, we will send you that particular invitation as well. The second question is that if you do not have a sustainability report, are you interested? Right? So those guys who are interested, like I mentioned to you, will also be channeled to the training side. Another question would be if you've got green products. Green products is something that we are trying to compile as well so that we can strategically have a compilation of companies for us to promote as well. Right? So just this particular questionnaire, for us to have some sort of indication of where most of the Malaysian companies stand and what are the types of assistance that they require from us. Right. So that's currently my presentation. I would rather have more questions asked so that I can help to give you more clarity on why are we here and why are we pushing this particular agenda, especially for the exporters community. Thank you.
Oh, I'm muted. Thank you, Mr. Sampson, for the insightful clarification. We've got two questions here. What would be the penalty or punishment if there is greenwashing found? What is this?
Yes. This one I would have to. I know there are legal implications to it, but it varies within countries as well. That's what I currently know. But if you've got a certain market that you're looking for, then perhaps we can try to reach out to our trade commissioners to see in that particular country, what are the implications to the Malaysian exporters.
All right. Next is ESG also the requirement for the foreign manufacturer who import their product to Malaysia? Export, I think.
Actually, sustainability reporting is based on the buyer, right? What we know of, in most instances in Malaysia, Malaysian exporters are doing sustainability report because that is what is required by the buyers. All right. I only know a handful of Malaysian companies who are doing it by themselves. All right. So if the Malaysian company wants to ensure that they are purchasing or they are buying products from a company who has got strong ESG principles embedded in them, then they can request for it. Right? But what we know of now, most of the big international brands, international buyers, especially in EU, US, Japan, a vast majority of them have started asking for companies who've got ESG disclosures.
Okay, probably you can enlighten us a bit on the service export fund. Yeah, you mentioned that it is for sustainability export, including registration fees, certifications, and all that. For example, if you want to get a RISI class certification, that would involve quite some amount. So, how would is it a grant or is it how does that work?
Okay.
The
This
SES.
the Services Export Fund is for service companies. MDG is for manufacturing companies. Okay, we've established that.
All right.
But the funding cap is a bit low. It's 30% of the cost of certification, but not exceeding 25,000 at the moment. Right. So we've got companies who have started to come to us and tell us that, look, one of my buyers is asking me for this particular certification. So we tell them, okay, give us that particular evidence to say that yes, this is what is required in that particular market by the buyer, and then they pay first, and then they come and claim from us, and then we reimburse it to them, right? But if the certification cost for that particular company or certification exceeds 25,000, we would advise you to go to our sister agency in MIDA, right? Under the DIAF, they've got a bigger threshold. If I'm not mistaken, projects can go up, or certification can go up to almost 500,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Perhaps Matrix should introduce a grant similar to MDG, which address the certification issue, probably.
So that particular certification issue is already inside the MDG and SEF. But we wanted to avoid duplication because we've already got MIDA with the DIAF fund, which has a bigger threshold. So we are not introducing anything at the moment because we want most of the companies to go and utilize MIDA's fund first, and then once it's finished, then perhaps we'll have to look into how else that we can go into introducing new grants with regards to certifications for exports.
Because Maida is a bit difficult from our experience. Maida is a bit more stringent. Matrit is a bit more forgiving for especially for exporters.
I think with public funds lah. So I think MIDA is a bit more stringent, perhaps because they they wanted to ensure that there's good governance with regards to the
Yeah, of course, for
disbursements
sure.
of the funds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. But in terms of for exporters, I think Matrit is a bit more accommodating in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you,
Uh,
Alvin.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, I'm
Matrit
so
is more
sorry.
friendly. Matrit is more friendly.
Hey, I'm so sorry. It's been a long time since I've done a webinar. Most of the time it was a physical event, so I'm able to interact and gauge the
Yeah.
crowd. Huh?
Uh-huh.
So, but please feel free to ask me anything that you want.
Sure.
I'll try my level best to answer.
Oh, there's another one coming in. How can we get support from Matrit for PLC or public listed company to
Mm,
comply with NSRF, FRS S21 by Bursa Malaysia? I don't think there will be support for listed company. Yeah.
I think no. You see, like I mentioned to you just now, a lot of Malaysian companies just say they want to start with their sustainability reporting. First, we tell them, okay, and they're a bit afraid in regards to costing. So perhaps I'll just tell you what we tell them. First, maybe you want to look into doing MITIS IESG, all right? Then you try you will understand where you stand, and then you want to, because that is in a way, if I'm not mistaken, they use some GRI reference as well. All right. Then you want to start your sustainability reporting. A lot of them would want to start doing their carbon emissions. All right. Securities Commission has got a free tool, if I'm not mistaken, and that particular free tool is a carbon calculator that you can start calculating your carbon. All right. And then you can also use their free SEDG tool for you to have. It's a template on how you can go about doing your reporting. All right. Then I mentioned to you that we work with a few other non-profit organizations or NGOs with regards to coming up with free labor handbooks. All right. We work with IOM, International Organization of Migration. They've got a free tool on how Malaysian companies can come up with a handbook. So that's another free tool that you can use for your ESG disclosures as well. And then banks. We've got a lot of the Malaysian banks here who are willing to support a lot of Malaysian companies with regards to uh, starting ESG projects or financing their ESG activities. So that's what we tell them. Right? Perhaps for this particular question, Bursa have got a lot of tools as well. You may want to also consider getting in touch with Capital Markets Malaysia, who runs the SCDG and the carbon calculator as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Malaysia is following IFRS 1 and 2 because of Bursa's requirement, but most of the buyers, they want impact reporting. All right. Impact reporting, in most instances, it's GRI. All right. But I was made to understand for IFRS 1 and 2, so there's an interoperability between those two standards and GRI.
Well, for an exporter to understand accounting as well. That's interesting.
Exactly. It's actually putting very complex also. They have to really go and dedicate a few people to be involved in this particular exercise as well.
Yeah. I mean yourself, you are a trade commissioner for you to understand accounting principles.
I'm not an expert now, Alvin, but we have to know a certain portion of the subject matter. But we work with a lot of partners. A lot of these partners come and support us in terms of subject matter experts and more detailed information, so that we can also introduce them to the exporters as well.
Okay, good. So while we're having fun, time flies. So on that note, we'll have to end. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our session. We thank the three presenters for their insightful presentation today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating and be engaged today. We've still got 87 people listening attentively. And thank you very much. Back to you, Crystal.
Thank you, Mr. Alvin. Before we proceed, I just want to check with Mr. Nigamuni and Mr. Fernandez. Both of them had their hand raised earlier during the Q&A session. Just want to check if do you have questions for Mr. Sampson?
It was actually a comment from my end on the support facilitation for, because this question was on the last question was purely on the PLCs. So PLCs have no choice. So they have to basically go for IFRS S1 and S2 with the transition timelines in phase. So there's already a ESG tax deduction given by the government, which is actually 50,000 ringgit per a particular company. So that is there. Like what Damien was actually saying, there's a lot of support from MIDA, DIAF, the 50/50 and 70/30 matching grants. So this is there, and the reasonable assurance is expected to be rolled out. We are already working with several companies on limited assurance, and also some are also venturing into reasonable. But we see the trend comes when the mandatory phase enters in 2027. So that's what we foresee. But it's very important to basically prepare properly, because essentially the fundamentals are the same, but in reasonable assurance we go deep compared to limited assurance. So there's a lot of government support is there coming from MIDA and trainings from Bursa and the financial institutions and SC itself. So yeah, I think more and more will be there in the future.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Supon just shared. Just to share that Alliance Bank, we have a program called a Sustainability Enhancement Program to help listed companies with IFRS compliance. So it's a partnership with Bursa, and happy to go into the details. But basically, one of the value adds or module that we do here is actually take your existing sustainability report, run through an AI module, and come out with a gap analysis on what areas you need to focus on. And again, I'm jumping straight into the solution here, but I think to the company that posted the question just now, if you're interested to find out more, be happy to share with you this program. Just touching on what Samson said, yeah, I think we have programs to help our clients to meet this requirement, right? It's coming in stages from 2027, starting with main market, those with 2 billion cap and above. And then eventually it's going to trickle down on a phased approach thereafter, right? The full compliance. So yeah, I mean, I know it's already 12 o'clock on the dot, so I'm not going to say anything else, but yeah, do get in touch and happy to share more. Back to you, Alvin. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. PLC's sustainability reporting, I think is a requirement. So what is the detail of the, it's quite interesting for us anyway. Let's have 1 minute, Mr. Fernandez.
Okay, sure. So basically, we have a collaboration with Bursa in terms of helping companies to get on board with IFRS requirements. And how we do this is we tie it up with the Bursa CSI solution. So Bursa has a platform to help companies with reporting and disclosures, where you feed in your data, your scope 1, scope 2 data, and then that gets translated into meeting your compliance or your obligatory annual reporting. Now, in addition to that, what we've done is curated the Sustainability Enhancement Program to help companies with a couple of things. I think the first thing is for those listed on ACE market or newly listed companies, you could have challenges when it comes to sustainability due to resource, due to expertise. So what we do is we have a module that's for helping you generate your first sustainability report. Basically do the heavy lifting, come up with 70% of the report writing, so that then you can take that back and internalize it, right? So that's one module on its own. The second module is what I briefly described about. Once you have a sustainability report, now you need to work towards making that compliant to IFRS requirements. That's, again, standards for disclosure. So in order to meet those disclosure standards, you need to find out what's the gap in your current report. So you could use module 1 as a starting point, or you could have an existing sustainability report that you already have in place reporting over the years. We look at that, come up with a gap analysis, as I shared this now. As Supon shared rightfully, if you look at IFRS S1, S2, general and climate, it's about going through and seeing which areas now which you're not disclosing on. Now you're not disclosing because you're not aware, or you're not disclosing because it's not a practice. So it's good to do this gap analysis ahead, so that if it's not a practice, you still have time to put that in place. There's still time.
Sorry.
Yeah. Also, just one small point to add, Alvin, onto the ongoing discussion. It's very important to understand that shift from a double materiality to a single materiality, and it's now everything finance, and everything links to money. So that's something that's very clear to understand. Whatever happens within your organization can be a social concern, can be an environmental concern, can be a stakeholder concern. The dynamic materialism affects everything in terms of monetary norms, because reputation, everything is all interconnected. So that's the fundamental shift that we need to basically understand. And with SASB standards, so our advice is for companies to start go and look into the particular ISSP standards, see what standard is actually material. So that's what I've highlighted in my slides as well, which would be the most applicable for the plastic industry. And there's a lot of literature, a lot of material is actually available, but it takes a lot of time and effort to basically navigate through. So these tools, what Bursa have and banks like Alliance Bank have, actually really help companies to basically navigate. But everything is connected to money. Everything is reputation, whether finance or legal or whatever. So it's very important to identify that shift from a double materiality to a single materiality.
Yeah, got it. Mr. Fernandez, is it like running through the sustainability report through a chat GPT to identify the gap?
There's some element of AI to it. Good intellectual guess in terms of how the technology works. So yes, there's an AI element to it, and also there is a bit of hard consultancy that happens at the back to run through and see what are those gaps. But it kind of helps point companies in the right direction, you see, because most companies have consultants to do the job. But the question is, how do you know your consultants are doing the job correctly, right? So the intention is here to again to act as a compass to guide, right? Now, if you want, although the whole requirement is coming in phases, but you want to make sure you're on the right track. You want to make sure that you are ticking off those areas as you go along. There's improvements. I think that part the regulator understands. It's gonna take time to get to that end objective, and that's why the timeline is kind of phased out. And Supon had that in his slide when he was sharing on NSRF as well just now. So I think just to close this off, it's something that it's great that Malaysia is moving in this direction, but again, it's a steep learning curve. From my personal experience doing it for Alliance Bank, I can vouch as well that it's a lot of hard work, a lot of expertise, special skills that's required to ensure you're able to meet these requirements, because it's international standard, right? It's not something which is a loose framework. It's very grounded by the ISSB, the board. And the fundamentals are there. So yeah, I mean, if you find it challenging, then you're on the right track, I suppose.
Okay. So much on IFRS. Okay, back to you, Crystal. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Alvin Ang, and all of our speakers for the very informative session on regulations and compliance requirements. I would like to now invite everyone to please pay attention to your screen, as we are about to sum up the MPMA Plastech Month 2025 through a short video. Apologies for that. Let us try and are we able to get the video up once again?
how do you conduct quality control for your roller, for your laser cut roller and your electromechanical engraving roller?
They don't attack Google, they don't attack Amazon because they know they are protected. But what they need to do is that they just attack your PC and they can use your PC as...
It's not just about these regulations and certificates. It is really about surviving in your business.
Thank you all once again for making the MPMA Plastech Month 2025 a success. Before we close the webinar today, we will be conducting a quick poll to get your comments on our Plastech Month throughout the month of November. It will just take about 1 or 2 minutes of your time. So we invite all the attendees that are still in the room to kindly key in your comments. Your comments will be helpful for MPMA to improve our future webinars and seminars and conferences. We will target to get at least 70% of the respondents in the room to respond to us. So kindly share your views through the 5 short questions in the poll. How many percent are we at? 26. Okay. Keep going. It's a short poll, only 5 questions, so yes, appreciate your feedback.
We had 51%, Crystal. I think that's good because people are leaving.
Okay, all right. So at least we hit the 50% mark. So thank you very much for all the inputs that you have given to us. With that, that's a wrap for today's session as well as the MPMA Plastech Month 2025. Thank you once again for all your support, and we look forward to welcoming you back in 2026 for more knowledge sharing and networking opportunities between MPMA and your companies. Have a great day ahead and see you soon.